Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the Freshly Squeezed podcast. As you already know, I'm here with my buddy Christian, and obviously it's me, Pratik, over here. You guys already know what kind of crazy stuff went down last night, so let's get into this juicy game as fast as we can.
Yeah, that was a really rough performance by the Raptors. I'm not a happy man waking up this morning. It's I don't know though. When you lose a key game like that to the Celtics and it's a blowout, tell me if this is just me or not. But I almost rather it be a big blowout like that than have a close heartbreaker or something like that. Because at least I can wake up justified to myself. This is a one off. This is a one off game. It happened. It's in the past. It's already in the rearview mirror.
Yeah,
Forget about it. Move on to the next team. We're moving on to the Grizzlies on Sunday. How do you
yeah.
feel about the game? Is that
Well, to be honest, I already felt going into the game that we were not going to perform at the best, just because we came off a 3-0 run. We faced the Lakers, obviously we already faced the Heat,
yeah.
aggressive game. The Magic, they were in a series of losing, so they needed to come and try and show up with the Raptors, but that's why the Raptors had to put on a show again. And I just, man, with the Celtics, they were bound to catch a loss, especially because Celtics are really good. Obviously, I cannot downplay how good the Celtics are, but in terms of defense, man, like we already had them locked down. The biggest problem was that from the 3-point end, we didn't drop any of our shots. We had so many open shots. Not even they weren't none of them were really contested. Like if you look at the stats, we all shot under 25%, which is or 25% or under, which is terrible. As a team, yeah. You can't have
Yeah.
Van Vliet and Lowry and OG or actually Siakam. See, we were talking about Siakam the other day, man. This is a game where he needs to show up, but we didn't have that. He went like one of six from the no, sorry, not one of six. Van Vliet went one from the 3-point range. Take that, and Siakam
One
went
for
one.
five.
So we're
Uh
talking,
huh.
Van Vliet is like our elite shooter. Obviously, we cannot have somebody like that. So yeah, we did get exposed, but not truly exposed. I just think that these guys were tired. I don't think that they were actually in this to win like they usually are. Because we still
That's what
have a
it
tough
seemed
schedule,
like.
man. We still have a real tough schedule. It's not a joke. We're facing the Blazers. We're facing the Nuggets. We're facing um, how can I forget the Bucks? Come on. We're
Playing the
facing
Bucks on Monday night on the
yeah,
second end of a back to back.
yeah.
So you're right, like you said, that's a good point. It's not getting any easier for us. Like
Hmm.
these tough matchups, we have to come to play. It's I do kind of want to give them an excuse, like you said. We were seven in a row if you go back to before the bubble. Uh, uh,
Exactly.
three in a row in the bubble. We were undefeated in the bubble, and so they kind of give them a write off. But at the same time, the lack of shot making was really tough to watch.
Hmm.
Um, and the Celtics guys showed up. Tatum was hitting really tough shots. I tuned in Kemba. Uh, Kemba hit a nasty three in the second where it was just you never really saw a comeback coming in one of these games, and we've been coming back all year against tough teams.
Yeah.
Best comeback of all time in Raptors history against the Dallas Mavericks earlier this season. And you can kind of feel it in the air sometimes when it's on its way. Tonight did not feel, or last
No.
night did not feel like one of those nights.
Mm-mm.
And like you said, man, so some of the biggest disappointments, like Pascal Siakam, where was he? Where has he kind of been these last few games? And
Yeah.
I've kind of excused them as our star, saying he is still kind of getting he's kind of got to get back into the flow of things because that matchup against Tatum was absolutely horrid last night. It was brutal to watch, and
Yeah.
um, that's all everyone's talking about on social media as well is Tatum cooked Siakam, like he looked like the superior star, and that's one of the stories this year was who's the better player because they have, I don't know if you've seen it, they have nearly identical season averages. I
Hmm.
think it's 23. I don't know what the points and assists are, but I think it's almost
They're
absolutely
hovering around
identical.
like five rebounds, 3-4 assists. Yeah.
And
That's
it's the exact same thing for both of them, same stats, but who shows up, who's going to be the better player, and
I think
Tatum looks good. He's a shooter. He was definitely more aggressive last night. It's just he's so smooth with the basketball.
yeah. Hmm.
And Siakam was looking choppy. He was making bad decisions. Um, he only had 2 turnovers, but the last few games he's had a lot of turnovers. So
Yeah.
it was like you said, it was tough to watch. Uh,
It
yeah,
was super tough to watch. And if you match up our rosters, obviously you can see why most people would be disappointed in the Raptors. We had Kemba on a minute. Sorry, Celtics had Kemba on a minute restriction, right? He only played like 23 minutes.
yeah, he's been on a minute
So,
restriction the whole bubble, and so
yeah.
that's why I don't know. That's something I thought we could take advantage of, but obviously it just wasn't our night. One of
Yeah.
those nights, like I said, we kind of got to just throw it in the rear view and move on to the Grizzlies, move on to the Bucks
Yeah.
because we got a tough back to back, and like you said, it's not getting any easier our matchups. And you know what? I have to say this because it was so horrid last night for the Toronto Raptors. If you're a Toronto sports fan, I hope you did not tune in to the Toronto Raptors for most of this first half because then you missed one of the best comebacks in Toronto Maple Leafs history. It
In
was
Toronto history. Let's just call it Toronto
in
history.
Toronto history, down
Yeah.
2-1. It's a best of 5 series. 3-0 with 4 minutes left. We score 3 goals to tie back in the third period. I know you didn't catch it last night, Pratik.
Yeah.
Matthew scored an overtime winner. Best comeback I've ever seen. My house was me and my brother were celebrating like crazy. It was a fun night for one Toronto sports team, and they saved it. I'm really thankful that happened because they saved it from being an absolutely miserable night. If the Raptors got blown out, it looked like they were getting the Leafs were going to get blown out 3-0. It was real close to being one of my most miserable nights as a Toronto sports fan.
Oh man. I can only
So
imagine.
thank
Yeah.
goodness they saved that from happening. It did cure my depression from the Raptors a little bit, and so I just had to give a shout out to the Toronto Maple Leafs. So not all horrible news for us Toronto fans.
Indeed, indeed. You know what? I was just saying this to somebody else before, but I'm so happy with the Leafs because I just keep remembering the Boston series every time I think of losing from
Every
a series
which
3-1.
one? Which Boston series? They're all
Um,
miserable.
they're all terrible, aren't they? Uh,
Yeah.
this was when we were up 3-0 and they scored on us in the third period. What was it?
Yeah.
It was 3 goals, right? In the last 2 minutes or something, 4 minutes,
I don't something horrendous,
something
man. It was
ridiculous. Yeah,
yeah,
but
really rough
they
to
sealed the
watch.
deal, and that was a game 7 loss, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm happy that
absolutely.
something like that didn't happen again. Except
Yeah.
we were the ones to dish the dagger. Yeah.
So man, let's talk about going forward. Let's turn this into a more broad conversation. Let's tune last night out of our minds. What do you think? Because I think it's almost inevitable. I think it's inevitable that Boston's going to meet Toronto in the second round,
Oh yeah.
especially with Ben Simmons being out for Philly. So that looks like it's going to be the matchup. It looks like it's going to be a Boston Philly first
Yep.
round. Um,
Boston is gonna shred
I
Philly.
I don't
There's no
see
question.
Philly. Yeah, Embiid. He's like last night. He had a rough night as well.
Yeah.
He had a rough first half. Came alive in the second half, to be honest, from what I saw. But it looks like Boston's gonna meet us there. And what do you think that matchup's gonna look like? Does this concern you? From last night, do you think there's any takeaways, or is it just has anything changed in terms of
Um,
that matchup goes?
that's a great question, man. I definitely cannot ignore the fact that we lost pretty badly against the Celtics. Obviously I can
Hmm.
count it as an anomaly, but that shouldn't be the case.
Well,
Just because,
Boston fans aren't gonna be forgetting
yeah,
about
they're
that
not gonna
anytime
let us off
soon.
the hook like that.
Yeah,
You can't.
yeah, yeah.
But definitely once we go to the playoffs, I personally think out of all the teams in the East, we're gonna have the most trouble with the Celtics. The Bucks are not ready for us. Giannis might show the hell up, but
Whoa,
I
whoa,
don't
whoa!
think
Hot take. Okay, yeah.
I
Explain
don't think
yourself.
I just now the reason I'm gonna say that is because of how our teams match up. Celtics are a perfect matchup for the Raptors. in terms of the types of players that we have and even the play style. With Milwaukee, it's different. They're not the same. Their bench is not as deep. They're not like last couple years with Brogdon and who else was coming off the bench? Come on, they even had. Do they still have Thon Maker? They don't have Thon Maker anymore. It was a different team back then. I think
Yeah.
that their bench was different. Now it's their starting lineup that's formidable, not so much their whole team.
But so here's what I'll say to that. I think Boston. I agree. I don't know if it's going to be tougher, man. So I think Giannis got better, and I think stopping Giannis
Yeah.
without Kawhi, that's part of it. We don't have Kawhi. That's where we lose out. Some of the biggest is him wearing down Giannis, and so obviously he was part of the big part of the shutdown. We're gonna have to throw OG or Pascal on him this year. It'll still be good, but he even said in a quote earlier this season, he thinks of Kawhi every time he gets double teamed. He thinks of Kawhi and Gasol. And he says, I'm not even kidding you, whether it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's Simmons, whether it's Simmons and Embiid, whether it's Tatum and whoever big is. We kind of came up with that scheme where we funnel Giannis into one of our bigs. It's Kawhi's beat him on the perimeter, making him work, and once he gets to the hole, you just throw big bodies at him, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of had that funnel system, made it hard for him to pass out too, because we have such long bodies on the perimeter.
Exactly.
So that's why we matched up so well. We were able to reverse sweep him last year. But that's something Giannis has been working on. He's been mindful of it all season long, and it kind of concerns me. I think he's turning into more of a beast. And like you said, the loss of Brogdon isn't great, but that team is so well built around Giannis, and it kind of like it was with LeBron in Cleveland. Like that team is built for Giannis. They still got shooters everywhere. I don't see that being a fun matchup at all. I think that's going to be the toughest matchup. But for Boston, you're definitely not wrong. That is not going to be a walk in the park either.
Yeah, what I meant to say is obviously Milwaukee is not going to be easy by any means. I am just saying that based on our team and our styles, the more difficult matchup for us, just for us, is Celtics. Maybe for another team it may not be the same case, but
It's
Celtics,
hard to disagree with that after last night, but I do disagree with it. I think we have
Okay.
the size advantage, and I think that's something that we didn't abuse last night, and we're gonna have to abuse in playoffs. And I think Nick Nurse will make that adjustment. So
okay,
like,
we have the size advantage, I think, in the post, but our guards are not as big. So,
but they don't have shot blockers for our
yeah, they
guards,
don't.
right? So they don't have the size advantage
agree
is
with that.
everywhere, and so
Exactly
if they
right,
don't
yeah.
have shot blockers, it's going to be easier for Fred and Lowry to get to the rim.
But hey, man, after, actually, yeah, you're right, because last night is not a true showcase of their 3-point, you know, potential. So, yeah, not something good to look off of.
But like you said, we have it in the post, but we didn't use it at all last night. So
Yeah.
Gasol, he's in my opinion, he's looking to pass too much. Like there's some times where we throw it to Mark in the post where he's just got to go to work. He's one of the
Right.
bigger guys in the league. When he gets deep post position on a guy like Jaylen Brown or one of their wings, Mark is way bigger than any of those guys. He's got to take advantage, shoot over him, and like just find your rhythm. Like these are the games when you can do it in the regular season. He's got to find a way to expose that matchup in the regular season instead of trying to figure it out mid playoffs. So I think he's got to be way more aggressive looking for a shot. We kind of touched on that last episode.
Yeah. Sorry, just to sort of segue from everything you're saying, I feel like with everything we've been talking about, I feel like we kind of ignored Gordon Hayward. He's kind of just been an ignored player on Celtics. Maybe it's just us who've been doing that, but I just think Gordon hasn't gotten the same exposure he's used to, But he's still a great player. He had an amazing comeback after his injury,
Yeah.
versus last season, where people were like, oh,
He's
obviously
finding his groove. He's
he is
finding
finding
his
his
groove.
groove.
And to that point, I think a lot of that has to do with the restructuring of the team this year. When they got rid of Horford, they got rid of Kyrie. That was one of the things last year was it was Hayward, they have too many guys, too many good players, and they didn't know where to distribute the minutes.
Right.
Management picked Hayward to get the minutes, and Celtics
Yeah.
fans seemingly were not happy with that.
Not happy with
Celtics
that.
players, guys like Brown and Tatum, they were confused because they were the young up and coming stars in this league, and Hayward coming off an injury, they just immediately inserted him into the starting lineup.
Yep.
When he was back with when Kyrie was there were leadership problem questions, and so like you said, props to Gordon Hayward. He is going to be a big part of them, and he can get them a bucket when they need. He necessarily wasn't popping off last night, but he had a good performance, 4 for 7 from the field. So like you said, they got a lot of problems to deal with, but I think size is ultimately where we're going to have to take them in that playoff matchup.
Yeah, for sure. So, we already go. We have to see, I think, as more games go on, and then give more of a take on what I think at least. I just think that we don't have the greatest picture right now of what a true series would look like between these two teams.
Yeah.
So I think we just got to be patient. We have yet to see Raps face a playoff Celtics, so let's see how the Celtics
I
do.
agree. I'm excited for it. And I hope it turns out in our favor.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to get your buddy on the podcast, your
Yes, we
Celtics
will.
friend, because I know
Yeah.
you've been hearing it from him all night.
Oh
Uh,
man, hearing it from him is an understatement, you know. So
well,
I definitely will
you know
talk.
what? If we won, we'd be giving it back to him. So that'll be a fun matchup,
Oh yeah,
and we'll make sure to get him on the pod.
for sure, for sure. Hey everyone, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in to our podcast today at Fresh Squeeze Sports. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe. You already know we're going to be coming to you with new crazy content, talking about the bubble, talking about the playoffs. So make sure you stay tuned, stay engaged. Also give us a follow on Instagram, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.